Have you ever wondered if the end of the world isn't just random chaos, but that it actually has a script? Well, in this explainer, we're diving into a very specific prophetic timeline, a kind of final chapter of human history, all based on our source material.
All right, so here's the big picture, the roadmap for everything we're about to explore. It kicks off with a 7-year period of just intense global turmoil. That leads to a dramatic return, which is then followed by a whole millennium of peace. And it all wraps up with one final ultimate judgment.
So let's start at the beginning. Our timeline kicks off with this 7-year period called the Tribulation, and the narrative really sets this up as a time of massive global upheaval. It all gets started with the emergence of one really powerful and, as we'll see, very deceptive leader.
So who is this leader? The source calls him the Antichrist. And at first, he shows up on the world stage as this incredible peacemaker. But, it's a classic bait and switch, because about halfway through those 7 years, he completely flips the script. He breaks all his promises, demands that the entire world worship him, and sets up this new global system of absolute control.
And of course, the Antichrist isn't working alone. He's got a key partner, the false prophet. Think of this person as his chief operating officer. Their whole job is to roll out and enforce these new global religious and financial systems. They're basically the PR and marketing arm for the Antichrist's entire agenda.
But here's where things get really interesting. At the exact same time all of this is going down, the source describes this incredible paradox. On one hand, you have divine judgment being poured out on the world, but on the other, there's a massive spiritual awakening happening. Huge numbers of people turn to faith in Jesus Christ, but it comes at a terrible, terrible price, often leading to their martyrdom.
So you can imagine, all this chaos, all this conflict, it's all building towards something huge, right? Well, it is. It's all leading to one single massive climax at the very end of the 7 years, the second coming. And it all goes down at one final decisive battle.
So how does this all happen? According to the text, it unfolds in a few clear steps. First, the armies of the world gather together against Israel for what's known as the Battle of Armageddon. Then, Jesus returns from the clouds with his followers, the saints. Those armies are instantly destroyed, and the two main bad guys of this whole period, the Antichrist and the false prophet, they get cast into what the source calls the lake of fire.
After that incredibly climactic battle, the world goes through a radical transformation. A whole new era of peace begins, with a totally different form of government taking over.
And we're not talking about a brief period of quiet here. This new era has a very specific length, 1,000 years. It's often called the millennial reign, and it is a long, long-lasting age of peace on earth.
So what does this 1,000-year reign actually look like? Well, it's a complete paradigm shift. Jesus Christ rules all the nations directly from Jerusalem, and his followers are there, reigning right alongside him. During this whole time, Satan and his demons are locked away in prison. The people who were martyred back in the tribulation, they're resurrected, and there's a judgment of all the nations that survived.
Now, you'd think 1,000 years of peace would be the perfect happily ever after, right? The end of the story? Well, it's not. The source material describes one more final dramatic act that brings this entire timeline to its ultimate conclusion.
It's the obvious question, isn't it? What happens after 1,000 years of perfect peace? What could possibly be the final act in this cosmic drama?
And here's the twist. At the end of the millennium, Satan is actually released from his prison. He's given one last, very brief chance to deceive people and to lead one final rebellion. But this last-ditch rebellion, it's over almost as soon as it begins. Satan is quickly and decisively defeated, and this time he's permanently removed, cast into the lake of fire, forever. This is described as his final, irreversible end. So, Satan's final defeat sets the stage for the ultimate conclusion for all of humanity. It's called the Great White Throne Judgment. And according to the source, this is the moment when every single person who has ever lived is resurrected to stand before God for a final accounting.
And the outcome of that judgment? It's a permanent, final separation. As the source material says it, quote, "The saints are forever separated from those who are not saved and taken up into heaven." This right here is the definitive end to the entire prophetic timeline.
So we've just walked through this incredibly detailed prophetic sequence. For those who believe it, this isn't just some story. It's a fundamental framework for understanding history, justice, and destiny itself. It really leaves us with a powerful question to think about.
How does our view of the end shape the way we live right now?